So yeah, hi guys. I don't want to talk about today. Yeah, I dropped something somewhere. First of all, how have I been since my last video? Well, the hair's gone, kind of. I mean, you can still see some gold patches, but I guess the black will outgrow it. And you know what? A haircut is very good for me because, bro, look at this. The videography I said I'll start. I'm working on it. I needed to fix my laptop, so I just put a pause on that because of editing requirements. So because of that, I'm just waiting for me to get my laptop back and then into it. Now, what have I been doing? Yeah, that's how I've been doing. I've been good. I've sorted out myself to some degree, and I'm in an okay mental space. Even though today, after sleeping for so long and doing mostly nothing, I was just like, what is this? But yeah, I'm all in all good. I'm missing home. That's another thing. I'm really missing home. So apart from admiring myself, what else do I want to do in this video? Yes, I want to talk about church and my experience with finding a church. I know I'm always talking about my church, Covenant Nation, and how it has helped me to grow spiritually and how I'm so thankful for it. But I wanted to talk about my journey to finding that church. And it's crazy because for a long time I was, what's the word now? I was looking for a church. So basically what happened here was my church, ordinarily Foursquare, which is what I attend with my parents at home. When I got to school, that's the fellowship I got into, and that's when I really became, gingered about God. So at a point, they were having issues with the youth service they were holding, and they couldn't have that service anymore. So they were only having midweek services. So on Sunday, I was basically stranded. Yeah. So and I didn't want to join the regular church because it was different. It wasn't the same. You get me? I tried different things. There was a time I was going to a church because my school is in Surulere, so I was going to a church in Ikeja. Another time, and then it was like, this is not working. I was doing so many things. At some point, I was just streaming elevation services online. And yeah, for a very long time, I think it was almost a year, I wasn't committed to one particular church, and there were some Sundays, like 5-6 Sundays in a row, I would go to church, things like that. And it's like, many people don't go to church, and it's like, why? I mean, different people have different reasons. And I just want to talk about my reasons and the reasons I feel people stop going to church. I think one particular reason which is very common, is offense. And not really offense, it's more like, the standards we see on the altar is different from what we see when we interact with people one-on-one. And that's, in a sense, a fault of the church because we don't take accountability really seriously in many churches, especially Pentecostal churches. So a lot of people are just running on vibes. And it's dangerous because, you discover that many people are receiving Rema, but they are not changing inwardly. And I think a lot of people see that and then they're like, because of that, I'm not going to church again. And I know most people say that, oh, what about in the public spaces when that happens, when you have work and then you have people you interact with that are not so good. You say you quit your job? No, right? Most people won't do that. But I think that argument still doesn't cover it because the workplace doesn't set those standards. The workplace doesn't say, okay, come here and this is home. This will be a safe space for you. You'll be loved. You'll be cared for. You'll meet the right sets of people too. Office doesn't advertise that. In fact, what it advertises is competition, progress at all costs, those kind of things. So the fact that we make claim to those standards, we should really be held accountable to those standards. But another thing is that, the church is a safe space for everyone. So basically, everyone is growing, everyone is learning, even the pastors, everyone is trying to become like Christ, and we are very far off, so we don't know it all, we've not figured it out, but we just have a community of people that are growing together. And in that community, sometimes, because we are not yet there can be a disparity between where we are meant to be and where we really are, And I think that in many times has, made people move away from church, because it's like, that's another thing. Because if you really check the value of what's in the Word and the Bible, you realize that even though that system is flawed because of the human factor, the center of it, like the Christ part of it, is infallible. That's another thing I noticed. Like sometimes when I was even just going to church, that I felt, okay, I wasn't really getting, like, how do I put it? I wasn't really aligning to where God wanted me to be. I was still getting blessed, especially when I looked at it as, okay, God is here and is able to bless me. All I need to do is focus on Him, not just look past the grievances and the shortcomings of people and myself, but I need to focus on why I'm here. And that's why I think most people miss it, is that they're so focused on the pastor, they're so focused on, the choir or the workers or things like that, and they miss out on why they're really there, which is God. And it's only God that can offer you that perfect relationship. And like I said, the church also has to become more accountable in that sense of how, we check on our leaders and how we run churches and how we, welcome people. Because that's the thing, people will not be perfect. That's what we fail to understand sometimes. The church is not a admissions place. It's where, it's like the admission is not like you're admitting someone into a university where they have to submit certain qualifications. It's you admitting someone like into a hospital. So the people in the church are sick people. Like that's what the church is. So these are sick people that we are working on to become better. So when you go to a hospital, it's like you go to a hospital and you're expecting the patients to be able to do, 50 push-ups or to be able to do, backflips or things like that. It's like, no, this is the place where we train them to do that. So if they can't do that, we don't exactly fault them. However, also we are growing to that point where, okay, we can do 50 push-ups, we become those kind of people. And that's another thing, like the standards by which we make leaders, sometimes in churches is not like the fact that someone has been there for long does not mean someone can be in the hospital for 5 years, doesn't mean the person is getting better. It doesn't mean the patient has graduated to become a doctor. Somebody can be another person is money, someone can be the richest patient in the hospital. It doesn't mean it's the healthiest. So the standards with which we use to judge people that we put into positions, is another thing. It's just like the Saul case with Samuel, where he's just looking at the external things like, oh, he's tall, he's handsome, he has that leadership, physique, but the personality is what really matters and how much of Christ that person has absorbed, And then I think another thing is why people, for me, I think most times people, especially young people, when growing up, you are forced into church. You don't really have a choice because you're going to this thing which you don't exactly understand. And I don't know why I'm talking like that, but you don't understand the purpose of church. You don't understand what you're doing there. You don't understand these things that are being said to you. And you just keep going and you have no choice but to go. And so eventually when you get to uni, or you're out on your own, you don't see the point to do something that you don't understand anymore. So people just stop going, And that's where it's like, okay, as a Christian, you need to understand why you believe what you believe. I think it starts from there, how we teach children. Because most times what parents do is just because they believe this thing now and they've seen God work in their lives, they just expect their children to just, by reason of just going, But it's a personal thing, and it's a thing where, okay, you have to understand God for yourself. So I think building that and trying to ensure that we raise more children, teenagers, youths to understand that will help, like, okay, now people will understand why they're going to church. And another thing I think for me, one other reason I was like struggling with finding somewhere was the fact that, sometimes you consider proximity, as a reason for, okay, I don't have any church nearby, like I have it. And that's another thing. I thank God for the online, platforms now, so you can stream churches, even though like going physically is important, but don't just go to church for the sake of it, because there's a religiosity to it. Because like I said, growing up, you're always used to this thing. So you just find any proximal church and you're not really growing there. It's not to say that that church is not, blessing, or God is not there. But I think to each person, there is a path they are walking into God. And that exactly does not fit where God is, the kind of person God is raising you to be. And you're not really answering the questions that God is laying on you, but you're just going, And that kind of thing numbs you, in a sense, to the point where it gets to the point you just lose sense of. So you could just be going, but you're not getting anything. So I think that's another reason for me why I just said, you know what, I'm just going to these places that are close by, these fellowships, but I'm not gaining anything. So let me just pause and and pray about it and ask for God to lead me. And that's for me. Many times when I think about communal nation, I don't remember when I just jumped into a random bus. I think it's more of that. I think I jumped into a random bus, or someone invited me and I just came, or I saw a post or something. I really don't know, And then I think, that's it. So sometimes people go to church because there's a fine girl there. There's a fine boy there. Something like that. The kind of people there are things like that. There are fake reasons that by the time you take them out, you have no reason to go to church again. So it's very important you understand God for yourself and the importance of church, because like I said, it's like a sick bay where there's development, where there's refreshing, and then it's also community. So I think one step for me was finding the right type of church, praying about it, understanding my relationship with God. So I think those are majorly the reasons why. I think that first reason really covers a lot of reasons why people stop going to church, and the second one where they don't understand it, so by the time they just free, I'm not doing it again. And that's majorly it. It's sad because if you think of it, it's like church is such a beautiful place, when we do it right, because you have a community of people with similar values and both of you are growing to God, and then you can understand each other, in that sense. And then you don't have to be perfect. Many times, even sometimes, the leaders I'm talking about, they're not going to be perfect, but that's love we need to be afforded to us. We need to afford it back, because it's like an exchange of love everywhere. So, the church is flawed, in many ways, in the sense that people are there, but you need to keep going because of why you are going. It's Jesus, and that doesn't excuse that. That's why I said it doesn't mean that, okay, because you're going because of Jesus, the religiosity of going to church. If you don't go to church, that means you just go to any church. Because the truth is, there are many churches out there that I don't know what they're worshiping. But finding that right church and then going there. And I think another thing, especially about Christians, among Christians that are really committed, is you're all over the place, You hear Apostle Suleiman is doing something, you go there. Apostle Suleiman, you go there. Apostle this, Apostle that, Pastor this, You're always all over the place. And it's cool to go for programs and meetings because it refreshes you in different ways. But I think having a place where you're grounded and committed is important for consistent growth. Because you know that, okay, every Sunday, every Wednesday, I'm nourished, and there's this place where my pastor is leading. And that's important because you're growing with a herd, and I think that's one thing that we need to take note of not just going anywhere and going everywhere. And yeah, I think that's one thing. I wanted to record this video. I probably will still record this video with some other people and get the ideas on it too, but I think that's one thing for me in terms of going to church. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope if you've not been going to church, you can find somewhere, and if you can't find somewhere, you can find somewhere online. There's so many online ministries right now. Not online ministries, but online platforms and online ministries actually, and worship God together in that space. But if you can, most preferably find a physical space where you can pray together and just feel that atmosphere, and then do that honestly, and you'll be grateful to God for that. So subscribe, share, like,